Welcome back to the Explainer. Today, we're unpacking the Claude Code 2.1.2116 update. Now, I know at first glance, this looks like standard under-the-hood maintenance, but trust me, if you live and breathe in this tool every single day, this is hands down the most critical workflow upgrade we've seen in a hot minute. We are looking at an absolute masterclass in killing friction. All right, here is our roadmap. We're going to cover why this update actually matters, the long session speed fix, sandbox file system control, agent and session reliability, and finally, authentication and quick fixes. Let's get right into it. Section 1. Why this update matters. Maintenance that directly impacts your daily workflow. So, let me ask you something you've probably muttered to yourself recently. Have you noticed Claude getting super sluggish during those marathon coding sessions? You absolutely know the ones. You're completely in the zone, the logic is just flowing, you're bouncing a dozen back and forth turns, and then, bam, you hit a wall. You've probably suffered through those multi-second stalls, those painfully slow resumes, basically just agonizing sluggishness where you're left staring at a blinking cursor, feeling your train of thought completely derail. Right? Well, this release doesn't push flashy new AI tricks. Instead, it aggressively hunts down and patches the exact real-world annoyances that literally break your flow state. Section 2. The long session speed fix, ending quadratic scaling. Okay, let's talk about the absolute hero of this update, the fix for that crippling performance degradation. The technical culprit behind your session slowing to a crawl was this little thing called message normalization. Basically, it's an internal bookkeeping process. But here was the kicker. It was scaling quadratically with the number of turns. Every single new message you sent made the math exponentially heavier. It was literally punishing you for having long, highly productive sessions. To put that in perspective, it's like trying to reread an entire 1,000-page novel from page 1, just so you can write the very next sentence. It was doing all this massive redundant math just to keep up with your chat history. Before this update, you had to deal with that quadratic scaling, causing those brutal, multi-second stalls right when you were deepest into a complex architecture problem. But now, after this update, the bookkeeping is fixed. The result is insanely fast resumes, even for your heaviest, most context-stuffed sessions. Look, for power users, getting these fast resumes back is without a doubt the #1 reason to run the update today. The friction is just gone. You can finally stay in that flow state no matter how crazy your back and forth gets. Moving on to Section 3, Sandbox File System Control, bridging local access and network security. All right, moving past the speed boosts, 2.1.216 drops a massive workflow unlock for us. It's a brand new config option called sandbox.filesystem-disabled. This is a real game changer if you need Claude Code to read or write files way outside the standard sandbox boundary, but you absolutely do not want to sacrifice your broader network security. Think about it. Say you need the tool to parse a massive global log file on your drive, or dump temporary outputs to a shared system folder. Previously, the sandbox would just hard block you. Now, you actually have a deliberate switch to allow it. By toggling this specific setting, you are turning file system isolation off, giving you that sweet local access you need while keeping network egress control strictly active. It's honestly the perfect pairing. You get completely uninhibited local file system access to get your bespoke tasks done, but it is locked down with strictly restricted network reachability, so you stay safe from external threats. It's an incredibly smart, nuanced approach that actually respects both your complex workflow needs and your security posture. Which brings us to Section 4, Agent and Session Reliability, eliminating workflow interruptions. Next up, we have a batch of vital background fixes that make sure your subagents and cloud sessions actually survive complex tasks. These aren't just tiny bug fixes, guys. These are massive safety nets. First off, when you resume a background agent session now, it actually restores the agent's original prompt and tool restrictions. Before, it would revert to the default agent, which meant a total agonizing loss of context right in the middle of your task. Second, background subagents are no longer getting suddenly canceled just because a high-priority message came in during their startup window. Third, and if you use Git heavily, you will feel this in your bones. Nothing causes a panic attack quite like a worktree isolated subagent quietly redirecting your Git operations into the shared checkout. Well, good news, that dangerous redirection is completely fixed. And fourth, if a cloud session gets interrupted mid-turn because of a container restart, it's going to automatically rerun that interrupted turn when it resumes instead of just leaving you stranded in an unresponsive dead end. The big takeaway here, immense, rock-solid stability for your multi-agent workflows. Section 5, Authentication and Quick Fixes, Polishing the Rough Edges. Broken authentication is literally the fastest way to derail a great coding session. So this update patches some incredibly annoying authentication loops, making OAuth token handling so much more robust. We've all been there, right? You kick off a huge automote run, you step away to grab a coffee, and you come back only to find it just died halfway through because of a silent HTTP 401 token expiration. Brutal. Well, now, those expiring tokens will gracefully rotate in the background without blowing up your tasks. Also, if you're using Claude in Chrome, that nasty 403 looping bug on Reconnect, totally fixed. And for MCP reauthentication, it won't revoke your working credentials before the new sign-in actually completes. The whole point is just keeping you logged in and moving forward without forcing you to babysit your tokens. To wrap up the technical side, let's look at these final quality of life fixes. Really, they're about healing those daily developer paper cuts. When you tell Claude to wait or explain things via Ask User Question, it now responds with perfectly neutral wording. The web client isn't going to maliciously drop your carefully typed out answers just because you let it sit idle for a minute. Telemetry got a massive upgrade too. It now accurately separates user rejections, failed permission prompts, and user aborts. This is huge because when you check your usage logs now, they won't be cluttered with false positives just because you manually canceled a prompt. Plus, the /rewind command is way safer. It ignores symlinks and hard links so it doesn't accidentally restore or delete the wrong files. And lastly, any skills or commands you tweak during a session, they populate in your / menu immediately. No restart required, just instant updates. Honestly, these small details really stack up to create a drastically smoother experience. As we wrap up this explainer, I highly recommend checking out the full changelog on GitHub to comb through every minor detail yourself. And you can absolutely master your newly frictionless tool over at claudiamaster.net. So as you boot up your freshly updated environment today, I want to leave you with this. How much faster and how much more ambitious is your next marathon coding session going to be now that quadratic scaling is finally dead?